Hey guys, so I wanted to give you an update on the Outback. I actually have it for today. My fiance had to take my car to work because this one decided to misbehave. And the lights, or I'm sorry, not the lights, I had to turn on the lights, but the air conditioner blower motor and the back window regulator actually both broke. So luckily they were covered under warranty, and now it's time for me to take this back. I had mom's charger for the day, and that one was good. Update on the 99 Camry, it did actually make it to Europe, so now it's in Italy. My sister is just waiting for the paperwork to go pick it up. And my car is still behaving for the time being, just up until, what was it called? The next thing. I know it sounds kind of crappy, but that's kind of the faith I have in it right now. As you can see, the car is driving fine otherwise. There's no reported issues on it. The CVT is actually behaving, so that's good. A lot of times you get a little bit of troublesome problems with these, and unfortunately they go out rather young, but this one has made it up to almost 50,000 miles, so that's pretty good. But yeah, let's go ahead and just drive the Subaru. I want to do an interior review of it, but unfortunately the technicians left it a little bit messy, and we do have to get the interior actually detailed, because unfortunately everything is very light in color, so all the dirt from your arms and your hands and stuff like that will actually show. So I do want to get this detailed before we end up going that route. This one actually may be going on a trip pretty soon to California. The Elantra will be going again to California, but this might be the one that my mom and my fiance both drive together, just because they've been taking her Charger, which actually does really well on the highway. So they're probably gonna end up taking this one because it does need to be ran on a trip. So without further ado, I'll do a little bit of a driving video, show you how the car ultimately operates just under normal conditions, and then yeah, we'll kind of go from there. Wow, the guy in this car next to me is really hot. Jesus Christ. Sorry guys, I didn't mean to say that on camera. Okay, time to move on, but he has a Ford Focus. That's pretty sad. Alright, so the difference between this Subaru and let's say the CVT and Nissan is that the RPMs aren't as jumpy in this one. The transmission will behave like a normal automatic. As you can see, it is simulating gear changes, but the gear changes are a little bit more firm, and on top of that, they're a little bit more elegant. In Nissan, they tried a little bit too much to make everything very fast moving, so the tachometer and stuff like that flips like a trunk of an elephant when it's moving its head around. So we'll get onto the highway, and I'll show you guys kind of how the Subaru drives on the highway. The RPMs on this actually rest rather low, and that's a good thing considering the fact that the older 4 and 5 speeds used to have pretty short gearing. So the transmission would rest the top gear at about 3,000 miles at almost 75 miles an hour. So this one's a lot lower due to the CVT, and ultimately the gas mileage on it is a lot better compared with the previous generations with the 5-speed auto or even the 4 speeds going into the 03 to 05 market models. I think the 4-cylinders actually still had 4 speeds up until 2011 when they introduced the CVT. Speed's not really too much of an issue on this car. It's not the fastest by any means. It is still a 4-cylinder, but the 4-cylinder's power is actually pretty adequate. With the mid-range torque, the car definitely can still take off despite it really only having 175 horsepower, and moving an all-wheel drive vehicle, it does add a lot of weight. But now it's actually behaving like a normal CVT, just hanging in those lower RPMs with no shift pattern. But yeah, it's rather nice. The cabin is pretty quiet. Not a lot of engine noise unless you get it into the higher RPMs. I do like the H, or horizontally opposed engine. It does actually provide a good throaty rumble, and it's not, you know, like a raspy 4-cylinder. It actually has a good tone to it, which makes you kind of want to step on it once in a while. So I'll do that momentarily when I get onto the freeway. Yeah, as you can see, 60 miles an hour resting around 1,700 RPMs. Not too bad. It's kind of where my car rests at like 55, but then again, the 6-speed is a little bit shorter gearing. I'm not sure what the new Elantras are going at. Alright, so here we're not going to be going much faster. It does run actually rev really nicely, pretty responsive to your throttle input. And as you can see, it was a pretty good rumble, yet it was still quiet and elegant. So this car definitely provides a very elegant ride. Very different from the previous generation Subarus, which were very rugged. This one actually provides kind of like a nice balance between the two. It still gets the job done, but at the same time it gives you more comfort and it gives you a little bit more of a relaxed driving style compared to the previous generations. So, not too bad. You can kind of just take this on a long trip and the thing will just go for you. It does actually warn you at the 2-hour mark. If this car's been running for 2 hours straight, it'll give you a little bit of a jingle saying to kind of take a break, or if you want to keep going. We've just been going for 2 hours, so it actually is pretty nice there. But yeah, pretty steady cruiser. Pretty steady, steering wheel doesn't wobble. Suspension absorbs a lot of the bumps, a lot softer than the previous generations. Previous generations were a little bit harsher in terms of their ride quality, but the cabin noise isn't too bad. Now that the doors actually have like stripping that goes all the way above instead of it just being a window, you don't get that wind noise consistently like I had in the 03 and 04 Outbacks that I've reviewed on this channel. So it is rather pleasant. Obviously the Outback has grown in size, and the new one was pretty interesting, but it didn't seem like much of a change. I'm assuming the interior and the engine is what changed, but then again too, I mean, these are pretty decent vehicles despite this one being already 2 years old. It doesn't really feel outdated, and it's going to hold its value pretty nicely. If people would stop hitting the doors with their doors, that'd be nice. So, as you can see there, it did start mimicking a shift pattern for me to get that extra acceleration. And then now it will act like an automatic again and then go into its CVT mode. One thing I will say is that you guys really won't know this is a CVT. And the reason why is because with these simulated gear patterns, on top of that with being very uniform in how it's behaving, you really will think this is a traditional automatic transmission. The rubber band effect isn't as prevalent in this car as, let's say, the older Subaru models, or even in the Nissans, for example. The rubber band effect, they're really doing a good job now in these CVTs of eliminating that. If I'm not mistaken, it was the Toyota Corolla hatch that actually introduced a first gear launch. So that launch gear actually eliminates the rubber band effect completely until the CVT actually takes over. This one, not so much, but a lot of these newer CVT transmissions, they're actually really being updated to avoid that rubber band effect and ultimately make the car seem a lot more responsive. On the highway, this thing is really responsive, but in the city, sometimes it can act a little funky. So it's just one of those things where I'm glad that they're taking measures to do that. I think now with the new Subarus, the new Outbacks, they're going to be following kind of the same pattern as the Ascent. They're going to be having 8 ratios that they're going to be mimicking instead of 6 in this car. And I believe the 2019 models, not the Outback, but I believe it's the Forester and the Crosstrack that are mimicking 7 shifts. So it's actually pretty decent if you ask me. I actually do like the fact that they're adding more ratios in there because it will actually eliminate the rubber band effect even more and ultimately allow you a better driving experience. Yeah, very smooth. Like, my arm is resting right now and the car is really not shaking much. So, pretty good there. You'll see it age a little bit. I mean, granted, that's how it's going to be on any car, but it's going to hold it's going to age gracefully. This car already has 48,000 miles on it, at least almost. So, still running like a champ. Alright folks, well, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. This was a kind of a highway drive of the Outback to show you guys how it behaves. It's so nice having a fan in the car again, and it's ultimately going to be nice when we can roll down that back window. I'm just glad it didn't get stuck in any other position but up. Alright folks, you all have a good one, and I'll catch you soon. Later.